Ren Zhiqiang's fall from grace. From real estate tycoon to political prisoner with an 18-year sentence nicknamed Big Cannon Ren for his outspoken criticism of the Chinese Communist Party, CCP, Ren Zhiqiang was a prominent real estate magnate whose wealth and political connections long seemed to shield him from severe repercussions. Known for his fearless commentary and sharp critiques of government policies, Ren was a rare figure in China's elite circles. However, this once untouchable businessman has now met a harsh fate. In September 2020, a Beijing court sentenced Ren Zhiqiang to 18 years in prison on charges of corruption, bribery, embezzlement of public funds, and abuse of power by personnel of state-owned enterprises. Yet, his supporters and sympathizers insist that his true crime was not economic misconduct but his audacious criticism of Chinese leader Xi Jinping, whom he famously called a clown. A case of punishment for speech. It's blatantly obvious that this is punishment for his words. Anyone can see that, said Guo Yuha, a Beijing-based sociologist, in a telephone interview. Those so-called economic issues, this charge, that charge, are nothing but fabricated excuses. She argues that Ren's case exemplifies the CCP's tactic of suppressing dissent by cloaking political retaliation in the guise of economic crimes. The Beijing No. 2 Intermediate People's Court alleged that between 2003 and 2017, Ren illegally amassed over 19.41 million yuan, approximately $2.8 million USD, in profits and claimed his abuse of power caused state-owned enterprises to suffer losses amounting to 116.7 million yuan, about $17 million USD. The court's brief verdict summary stated that Ren admitted to all the alleged criminal facts and willingly accepted the court's judgment. However, this claim has raised widespread skepticism. Observers familiar with China's judicial system note that in politically sensitive cases, a defendant's confession is often coerced under immense psychological or physical pressure, signaling the systematic dismantling of any remnants of free expression in China. Sophie Richardson, China director at Human Rights Watch, remarked, "The court's claim that Ren Zhiqiang fully accepted the verdict is deeply troubling. Such statements typically indicate that the defendant faced significant coercion during the trial process, rather than suggesting they genuinely endorse Xi Jinping's so-called rule of law." The downfall of a red aristocrat at 69 years old, Ren Zhiqiang hails from a privileged family deeply rooted in the CCP's legacy. His father once served as China's Vice Minister of Commerce. Ren himself cultivated close ties with top CCP leaders, including Vice President Wang Qishan. This background made him a member of the second-generation Reds, the offspring of the CCP's revolutionary founders, who often enjoy special privileges and political protection. Yet, this time, even his illustrious lineage could not shield him from retribution. Crushing Ren Zhiqiang and punishing him under the pretext of economic crimes is meant to serve as a warning to others. It's killing one to scare 100, especially targeting the Red second generation, said Kai Shah, an acquaintance of Ren and former professor at the Central Party School, in an interview before the verdict. Now living in the United States after being expelled from the CCP for her own criticisms of Xi, Kai believes Ren's severe sentence is not just personal but a deliberate signal to China's elite, cautioning them against openly challenging the party's authority. From business star to political firestorm, Ren Zhiqiang's career began in the 1980s, riding the wave of Deng Xiaoping's economic reforms. Transitioning from a Beijing official to a businessman, he took the helm of Huayuan Group, a state-controlled real estate company. Under his leadership, Huayuan became a powerhouse in China's booming property market, earning him vast wealth and influence. A colleague, He Yang, described him in a memoir as confident, decisive, and commanding, like a military officer. However, Ren's blunt personality extended beyond the boardroom into the public sphere. As early as 2010, he stirred controversy when a protester threw a shoe at him during a real estate forum, yet he seemed unfazed by criticism, embracing opportunities to share his views on social media. "What this society lacks most is not lies but the truth," he declared in 2013. In 2016, Ren first landed in political hot water for mocking Xi Jinping's directive that Chinese media must listen to the party and follow the party. At the time, the CCP imposed a relatively light punishment, a one-year probation within the party and a barrage of condemnation from state media. But in March 2020, Ren was detained after criticizing Xi's handling of the COVID-19 outbreak. In a widely circulated essay, he argued that officials' initial cover-up and suppression of information about the virus validated his long-standing warnings about the dangers of stifling free speech. He went further, lambasting Xi. Standing there is not an emperor displaying his new clothes, but a clown who has stripped naked yet insists on ruling as emperor. A trial shrouded in secrecy and speed. Ren Zhiqiang's case was cloaked in secrecy, a hallmark of politically charged trials in China. The court did not disclose the exact date of the trial, though supporters noted that a notice was posted on September 11, indicating a hearing would take place. From detention to sentencing, the process moved with astonishing speed, a common feature of sensitive cases under the CCP-controlled judiciary. China's state media provided minimal coverage of the verdict, publishing only the court's brief statement, suggesting an effort to downplay the case and avoid sparking public debate. "This is outright political persecution," Kai Shah said angrily. When Ren retired from Huayuan in 2014, he underwent an audit, and in 2016, he was investigated repeatedly with no issues found. Bringing up old matters now is clearly a case of fabricating charges. A broader chilling effect. Ren Zhiqiang's harsh sentence is not an isolated incident but part of a broader pattern since Xi Jinping assumed power in 2012. Over the years, the CCP has progressively tightened its grip on dissent, targeting not only ordinary citizens but also party insiders and elites. In 2014, Xi warned, "No one is allowed to eat the Communist Party's rice while smashing the Communist Party's pot," a phrase later included in a collection of his quotes, underscoring his intolerance for internal criticism. Similar cases abound. Tsinghua University law professor Xu Zhongran was briefly detained in July 2020 for publishing essays critical of Xi, with investigators baselessly accusing him of soliciting prostitution, a charge he and his supporters vehemently denied. Beijing publisher Zhang Xiaonan was detained in September 2020 for supporting Xu, with police citing illegal business operations, though her allies believe she was targeted for aiding dissidents. International outcry. Ren Zhiqiang's 18-year sentence has drawn widespread condemnation from the international community. Human Rights Watch's Sophie Richardson called the verdict extremely cruel, warning that it represents a further assault on free speech in China. She expressed concern over the court's claim that Ren willingly confessed, suggesting it may indicate mistreatment or coercion in custody. "This sentence sends a dangerous signal to everyone," Richardson said. "It shows that even someone with Ren Zhiqiang's deep connections cannot enjoy the freedom to criticize under Xi Jinping's rule." The end of an era. Ren Zhiqiang's case marks the end of an era. During China's economic boom, business tycoons like him were seen as pioneers of reform, and their outspokenness was tolerated to an extent, sometimes even viewed as a force for progress. But as Xi consolidates power, this limited space for free expression has vanished entirely. For Ren's supporters, his sentence is not just a personal tragedy but a warning about China's future. At 69, he may spend the rest of his life in prison unless his term is reduced. His fate will likely make others think twice before speaking out, particularly those contemplating challenging the CCP's authority. "This is a dark signal," Kai Shah concluded. Ren Zhiqiang's case tells us that under today's CCP, the price of truth can be your freedom, perhaps even your entire life.